Hi there mate, how's it going? It's Benji here, and this is a breakdown and review of Yellowstone Season 5 Episode 5 titled Watch 'em Right Away. Governor Dutton decides to spend a few more days on the ranch in Episode 5 as Rip and company prepare to brand their cattle. Other ranches have been asking the Duttons for help, and they even helped out another ranch in Episode 4, but they know they gotta take care of their own business before helping others. John will join in on the fun too, and I'm using the term fun loosely here, because they'll be on horseback for 2 days to round up the cattle and bring them back to the ranch, and Clara puts together a publicity event for when they return to show the world what their lifestyle is about, and she's gonna make a guest list for this event, which will allow the governor to get through a couple weeks worth of meetings in just one afternoon. With that settled, John makes some time for his frowning daughter, who throughout this episode makes at least 20 jokes about Summer and John's involvement, and most of them are great. John tries to argue that Summer is there mainly for her environmental expertise. She will help him navigate environmental issues. Beth doesn't buy that. She goes, quote, "You invited your worst enemy to sleep in your bed, and if you think that she was freaking you last night, give her 3 months. The real freaking is coming," end quote. According to Beth, Summer is no different than Dan Jenkins or market equities. What they all want is the land, and at this point I can't help but agree with Beth. Later on, Rip is surprised to find out that Beth wants to come along for the ride. She's usually not a big fan of horses, considering her past with them. We had a flashback all the way back in Season 1, which showed Beth's horse getting anxious and knocking out her mother Evelyn's horse. And here, Evelyn suffered fatal injuries, and they were far away from the ranch, so Beth wasn't able to get help in time. Back to the present, Beth doesn't say outright that she wants to come along for the ride. She expects Rip to implore her and convince her, and Rip, being the good husband he is, does so with a smile. The very first scenes of this episode might explain Beth's thinking here. She has a dream about their teenage years when she was constantly mean to Rip. She wakes up in the middle of this and talks about this with her husband, saying that yesterday is what eats her. Rip responds by telling her that he doesn't think about the past, quote, "Yesterday is what eats everybody, that's why I don't think about it," end quote. So then Beth borrows a page from Rip's book. She tries to ignore her past with horses and decides to ride with him. This particular storyline is a subtle one, and it might get lost in the middle of all the flashy moments we had later on in the episode, which is why I appreciated it a lot. They pulled a bit of Beth's backstory from Season 1 and allowed her to take a step forward, and she didn't do it all alone. Rip held her hand along the way, so this was an incredibly meaningful sequence. Elsewhere, Casey and his family arrive at the ranch for the ride. We saw them earlier outside their house discussing this invitation. Casey was crying for a second because he was worried about his family after what happened to baby John. And Monica thinks that Casey should keep his job as the livestock commissioner because nothing can come between them. Monica also says, "Let's go to the ranch for the roundup," though she's not going along for the ride. Casey and Tate are. Just before they arrive at the ranch, we see Clara being told to bring a satellite phone on the ride. And after seeing Casey, Clara asks John if Casey is his youngest son, and John says Casey is his only son. What he means is Casey is the only son he's got left. Lee got shot at the start of the show, while Jamie betrayed the family on multiple occasions. This fatherhood discussion is brought up once again toward the end of the episode, when Rip and John share a drink following Beth's shenanigans. Here, John says he's got one son he misses, meaning Lee, one that he pities, that's Casey, and another one he regrets, which is Jamie. As for Beth, John envies her because she is the embodiment of freedom. She often does whatever she wants whenever she wants it, with little care for what the world might think. In that sense, Beth is similar to her ancestor Elsa, who we saw in the Yellowstone prequel titled 1883. Others envied Elsa's freedom too, just like John is envying Beth's. So what shenanigans was I talking about? Well, you know about Beth's dinner table anxiety. She cannot stand that room and that table because for her, it is the symbol of the lie of the Dutton family. She doesn't believe they are a real family, they're broken, and the memories of that table overwhelm Beth with anxiety whenever she is there. That's why she keeps acting out, and that is why she doesn't sit at the main table when dinner is ready to be served. But John makes a huge mistake. He goes and fetches her, telling her to keep it cool. But John, Rip, and Carter all know what's coming when they watch her gulp down a drink. Just look at their faces, it's hilarious. And oh boy, let me tell you, the hilarity does not stop there. Summer has a meltdown when she sees all the game meat that is being served, and she preaches her cause and believes harder than a pastor in Alabama. While Summer complains about the fact that they are serving Dove, the bird of peace, Casey goes, "Dove's pretty good," and he snatches one, and Monica just cannot contain her laugh, and neither could I. Her laugh sounded so genuine that I think it might have been unintentional at first, but either way, after that I laughed out loud for 2 minutes straight. Her laugh was contagious, and I liked the fact that they didn't just sit there all serious, because as Monica said, the tension was making it so uncomfortable, both for these people to sit there and for us to watch. Poor Gator, he was just trying to answer Summer's questions and he had no idea what was going on. It was just priceless and too funny for words. Probably Monica's best moment in 5.5 seasons. I mean, it's been a few hours since I watched that, and I still laugh whenever I think about it. Beth feels insulted by Summer's demeanor, and she tells Summer to take a walk outside with her. So they leave and everybody starts laughing except Rip. He's worried this is gonna get out of hand, and after a while he goes outside to see what they're up to. They're beating the living crap out of each other in a clumsy manner. So Rip goes, quote, "Do you know how stupid you both look? You look ridiculous," end quote. He gives both of them a good telling off, asking them if they're gonna beat the other into respecting their opinion. Neither of them has had enough though, so he thinks they should just stand here and trade punches. They do that and Summer gives up after a while, and ultimately Beth helps her up, telling her to show everyone in this household some respect. Then Summer will get back the respect she gives. They rejoin the table with blood all over their faces, and as they continue to debate, this time in a more civilized manner, John decides he's had enough and leaves to have a drink. Now, this is one of those preposterous sequences that you're either gonna love or hate. I don't think there's any middle ground here. I've hated many a similar scene in season 4, and I've criticized them, but this one, it just felt right, because everybody acknowledged and laughed at and called out the insanely bizarre nature of the situation. You can't have too many of these in a single season. That was season 4's mistake, and because this season has been relatively calm up to this point, this back and forth was okay. I enjoyed it. The table is much calmer in the morning as everybody has their breakfast in silence before they head out for the roundup. Before leaving, Beth suggests Summer to explore the ranch. She's not coming along for the ride, and neither is Monica. And Beth wants Summer to think if there's a better preserved or loved forest in the country. Beth wants to see if Summer can call these ranchers her enemy then. After saying goodbye to Casey and Tate, Monica cries as she watches them ride away, which was a great way to end this episode, but we are not done. We gotta mention Jamie for a second. He is visited by Sarah in his office, and she is there to seduce him once again. Jamie argues that what they did was unprofessional and that he knows what Sarah is doing. She is trying to get him to recuse himself from representing the state against market equities. However, Jamie points out the fact that the state hires outside counsel for litigation, so he wouldn't actually have to recuse himself. He looks at Sarah with a smirk, and she starts unbuttoning her dress, and they presumably get it on. Overall, this was a slow episode that sets up a big adventure for next week, and you know that these adventures rarely go according to plan, so that is why they slow things down in this one, which I was okay with. We saw some forest fires caused by lightning. Maybe that'll come into play during the roundup. In fact, I've seen the trailer for episode 6, and I'll be posting a preview on Thursday. As for the rest of my thoughts on episode 5, I think we need to learn something more about what Sarah is planning to do now, because they've kept that hidden for a bit too long. You know, she's seducing Jamie, but what is her plan? I want to see something on that. The awkward Beth versus Summer duel was surprisingly enjoyable to watch. The moments Rip and Beth shared, as well as Monica and Casey, gave us some nice romantic moments. And finally, Beth's decision to go on the ride was a subtle but crucial step in her life. Well, what did you think about episode 5? Leave your comments down below, like this video if you've enjoyed this breakdown, and subscribe for more movie reviews and TV show breakdowns. That's it for now, take care and see you in the next video.